My Fair Lady, the iconic musical, is coming to Broadway in Chicago June 28th through July 10th. We have one of the stars, Sam Simahk, here to chat all about it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
This reincarnation of My Fair Lady, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to see.
Okay, so My Fair Lady. A lot of people are familiar with the movie starring Audrey Hepburn. It's one of the classic musicals from the 1950s. Gorgeous sets, costumes. The music is classic and beautiful. Fans of musical theater will find everything that they love about classic musical theater in My Fair Lady.
Now, you get play Freddie. Tell us a little bit about that role and taking on such an iconic role in the show.
Sure, yeah. Freddie Einsford Hill is just a sweet, sort of naive boy from the upper class. He meets Eliza, becomes enamored with her, and decides to kind of camp out on the street where she lives until she notices him. Basically, he's persistent. He's a little naive, like I said, and he ultimately means well, and he's pretty brave. So
And
I have a lot
you
of
can
fun
sing one of
playing
the
him.
best songs in the show too.
Yes, yeah. So I sing on the street where you live, which is one of these classic musical theater songs that I'm so lucky to get to sing every night. My voice teacher gave it to me in college, and actually, I'm Asian American. My dad's an immigrant from Bangkok, and my voice teacher in college gave me on the street where you live to work on, and I looked at him and said, Michael, I'm never going to play this role, and this is over 10 years ago now, and luckily the industry has changed, and now I'm playing the role. So it's I every night that I go out on stage, I try to remind myself how lucky I am to be there.
As far as your version and what you can tease about it for the Chicago audiences, how much of it did you study from the movie and past productions, and how much of it were you able to make your own?
You know, I try to make it my own. Of course, I've watched the movie and I saw it on Broadway with Jordan Donica in the role, who is fantastic. He's an excellent actor, beautiful voice. And so I saw what other people had done with it, and I did try to bring myself to it. And in auditions and in rehearsals, Bartlett Shear, our director, uh, he's a director who he doesn't try and take an actor and put him or put that actor into fit another person's mold. He really directs each actor to be themselves in the role. So somebody when you're working with someone like Bart Shear, uh, it's not hard to put yourself in because he's directing you to do that. And with Freddie, we had talked about him just being a kid, being somebody who doesn't know what he's doing, and I think that ultimately works really well in the context of today's society, where if you're going to have a guy who knows what he's doing waiting outside of a woman's house for weeks on end, we would call that a stalker. But if he's naive and well-meaning and a little goofy, I think it comes off a little bit nicer than if not.
With My Fair Lady, this is a show that your grandparents loved, your parents loved. You either did this as one of your first shows in high school. So this means, so much to so many different people.
Yeah, no, and that is something that is so. Another thing that I don't take for granted is how much this show means to people. And people grew up watching the movie, people grew up listening to the record, and they're coming expecting to see this lavish Broadway musical, and that's what they're going to get. And at the same time, it is some of the text has been updated slightly. Some of uh, the show itself, I think one of the scenes has been switched around to make the act break make a little bit more sense, and for time and whatnot. But you're going to get a lavish Broadway musical, and you're going to see a lot of people that are just excellent in the roles. Shireen Ahmed, who plays Eliza, and Laird McIntosh, who play Henry Higgins. They're fantastic. They run marathons every single night, and they're just some of the kindest people I've worked with in the business. And uh, yeah, it's a great company. It's a great cast. It's a great show.
Have you seen people getting dressed? Obviously, you think Man Fair Lady, you think elegance, you think everybody all dressed up. Are you seeing that reflected in the audiences as well too? Is everyone getting a little bit more dolled up to come see the show?
Not everybody, but we do see some people, and I'm always inspired and really overjoyed to see people really getting into it, and a little bit of Ascot Gavat cosplay going on. It's some fancy dresses, some some big hats or fascinators or whatnot. And it's really beautiful. I love how much the show means to people and how excited they are to dress up and be a part of it.
Let's talk a little bit about representation. You mentioned earlier that you got this song, but you never thought that you would be able to play this role. And what does it mean for you to be able to play a role like this? And have you been seeing messages either on social media or maybe fans after the show? I'm not sure what stage doors policy are now, but just to be able to see themselves on stage in a way that maybe you weren't able to growing up.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that representation is incredibly important. I'm very lucky to be one of the people who's able to do it right now. There are a lot of fantastic Asian and Asian American actors, dancers, singers that are finally being given the opportunities that we've been denied for a long time, and it's important for kids, especially, to see people who look like them on stage, on screen, etc. Um, that being said, I think it's also important for the adults of this country to see that as well. And then, when it comes to the kids, I think that it's very important for children to see themselves not just on stage, but in all different sorts of roles. I got to play curly in Oklahoma a few years ago, and was an Asian American cowboy. And I looked out in the audience in Houston. This is where I did it in Houston. It had one of the most Houston has one of the most diverse is one of the most diverse cities in the country, and I would look out and see little Asian boys looking up, and it just meant everything to me to know that they could see that they could be an actor, and they could be a cowboy if they really wanted to, and the same is with My Fair Lady. Unfortunately, we don't get too much of a chance to talk with the audience after the show because of COVID guidelines. But I've had people message me on social media. I've had people reach out and say it was so nice to see an Asian American up there. Thanks for representing us, and that I am really humbled by that.
This isn't your first time performing in Chicago. You were here at the Lyric Opera. You've been on tour here before. What are you looking forward to eating and doing on your time off?
Yeah, we were talking about this right before the formal interview started, but one of my favorite things about touring and just doing shows in different parts of the country is the food. Tacos in the Southwest, and Cuban food in Florida, and seafood in the Pacific Northwest. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, Chicago is the best food town in America, both for the very cool high end West Loop, Girl and the Goat, or River North Sunda is a fantastic Japanese restaurant. And then on the other side, the fast food, the deep dish pizza, the Al's Italian beef. That might be the first thing I get when I get there. Honestly, is you can't get that anywhere else in the country, and I'm so excited for that.
And you got to have it right here in Chicago. Maybe one of your days off, we'll go have an Al's Italian beef together.
That sounds great, Rudy. Thanks.
Sam, thank you so much for your time today. My Fair Lady, June 28th through July 10th at the Cadillac Palace Theater. BroadwayInChicago.com is where you can go ahead and get those tickets.